Good morning, North America. Welcome to Church Talk TV. Lively talk about life, church, and church life. I'm your co-host, Dr. Bill Tenney-Britton, and I'm joined, as usual, by my co-host, Dr. Kris Tenney-Britton, and we're broadcasting from our studio in Columbia, Missouri, the heartland of America. Say good morning, Kris.
Well, good morning, and welcome to Church Talk TV.
Kris and Bill Tenney-Britton here today to talk about a problem that most churches have and few churches know how to solve, and that's the problem of getting your first-time visitors to come back a second time, let alone a third or fourth time.
But wait a minute. Isn't hospitality enough? I mean, we've talked so much about hospitality, right? And how to get people, we want to make sure that they have good food, the right coffee and everything. Yeah. Well, you got to have the right cookies and
it's true. Yeah.
Donuts, whatever.
Oreos, okay. Oreos. Okay, anyway.
Toll House chocolate chip.
Oh, that's even better.
None for me. Okay, good tea, variety of herbals. Okay, but moving right along.
Right. Okay, but and you're right. Good hospitality is important. It doesn't necessarily bring people back, but the number one, and we did a study. Net Results Magazine did a study and looked at what is the number one complaint, if you will, number one hospitality faux pas that first-time visitors report. And you know what that was? The number one, she does because we've been talking about this. Unfair to ask you a rhetorical question.
It is,
but right.
I know.
the number one reported, self-reported hospitality faux pas is nobody spoke to me.
Okay. Now, what we have to say is for years and years and years, we've told you boomers, I mean, at that time they were new boomers, if you will, wanted to be anonymous. They just wanted to come in. They didn't care for anybody to know their name, but that has changed. People across the board, not everybody, okay, so hear that. You might say, well, not me, or not so-and-so. No.
But the vast majority,
right,
on the bell curve,
right,
it's the bell.
The bell, right. Really, they want you, they want it to be like Cheers, or they may not know they want it to be like Cheers, but they come in and everybody goes, "Wahoo, you're here."
Well, maybe not quite that much of a rahoo, but yeah, essentially, they want to be noticed. They want to be important. And I think the whole pandemic thing really changed our whole culture, that we became so isolated for so long,
right,
that people have gone back to church and they have this need for connection, and so that really is that people, they want to be known, they want to be heard, they want to be seen. They don't want a big deal made of them. They don't want to say, "Hey, stand up, we want to welcome you."
That's woohoos, okay.
Right, no woohoos, right. Yeah, we don't want to overwhelm them either.
No.
But I want to go back to my first statement and said that that the number one reported faux pas was that no one spoke to them. And you and I know that that's probably almost never the case.
Right.
Somebody said good morning.
Hopefully. If
but
you've got
most of the time,
leaders,
I mean, normally speaking, someone says good morning.
Right. I know.
They walk in and out. They glance at you good morning, and they keep on walking.
Right.
The complaint really should be more stated like this: it's that no one had a conversation with me.
Yeah.
No one took notice of me. No one helped me feel like I was welcome and wanted and important enough to be noted.
Sure. I'm thinking about a church you did a consultation at. I guess we, in a way, did a consultation at, right? I mean, I got to be there. And
you're the secret shopper.
I was the secret shopper. If you ever need a secret shopper, call on me.
Lots of experience.
Love it. Anyways, this woman, when you were meeting with the leaders and the congregation's leaders, he said, "Listen, no one talked to my wife who was there." And this one woman insisted that we had a conversation. I guarantee you there was no conversation.
It was a good morning.
But I think maybe she thought, that we had a conversation because it was two ways. Good morning. And I said, "Good morning, how are you?" And she kept on moving. Now that's another piece. If someone says to you, "How are you?" listen to their answer and say thank you and then return that. But I remember somebody saying, how often do we go to conferences or something, and you're going through the conference hall and you're going, hi, how are you? Oh, hi, how are you? Yes, and you keep on moving. No conversation is being had. And for me, it's become, it's artificial.
So
Church isn't a place.
So we have some solutions for that part. We want to talk today about how to connect with your guests that will help them get over the no one cared, no one noticed me, no one had a conversation with me, but also a way in which, in a lot of ways, you'll increase the return rate. Now, I want to say that good hospitality is important to keep from repelling visitors. But visitors don't necessarily come back because of good hospitality. Good hospitality should be the minimum. The minimum expectation that we're going to be welcoming and cheerful and et cetera, that they should be welcome there. But that it really has a lot to do, the returning visitor to make a second time is they were noticed, they felt like they were welcomed, and they would be welcome again, and we're not going to address this last two parts, and that the sermon connected with them, it was relevant and valuable. It says,
we've talked about
this.
Yeah,
we talked about that. This is an important,
right.
I've learned something here that is going to possibly change my life. Practical, exactly. And there's good follow-up. And we've talked about both of these things. We will talk about these again because they are absolutely critical. But three things must happen. They must feel welcome and wanted and important. They must feel seen and heard. Number two, they must have connected with this sermon in some ways. And number three is that there's follow-up. Those three things will increase your visitor return rate from the national average of 15%. Mainliners, you're down to 11. Churches, if you're on plateau, you're at 6% on a national average. Get that up to 50% to 75 or even 85%. We have churches that we work with that are seeing 86% return rate. So, these things are key critical components. But we're just talking about the first one today.
Right.
How to help your visitors connect with you and your congregation so that they feel welcomed and heard and connected.
Okay, so I was telling William this morning, all of this a few years ago really came into focus for me when I thought about our open houses. And until 2019, started COVID, we had an open house for, I think, 20 years.
For Christmas. It was Christmas.
Oh,
Christmas
yeah,
open house.
Christmas open house. Because those of you who know us know how much I love Christmas, and he is no longer a Grinch, and he loves it too. Anyways, we, the house
I always love
is
Christmas.
just,
I didn't love Christmas decorated. That was the difference. All right.
Anyways, you stick with that story. Anyways, yes, so the house is decorated. It's decked out from top to bottom, and inside and out. So we have that open house, but it's not just to share everything off. It's also show everything off. Well, and we're sharing it too.
Right.
Okay, but it started years ago. Pastors, listen up for this. If you're living in a church house, a parsonage, or a manse, right, okay, that's right, a manse. Anyways, a house owned by the church and provided to you, then have an open house around Christmas. People are in the house, they look at it, those who really care are, checking it out. It helps to keep them out the rest of the year. They see how nicely you're taking care of the home. Yes, it's really served us well over the years.
That's how we started it.
Yeah. So, and
but
it's
it expanded.
It continued because we haven't always been great decorators and on and on. So it grew, and we would have people, and we invite, here's an evangelism piece, we invite everybody on our street, which consists of 3 blocks. So 3 blocks of people open. Now, at first, when we moved here, we didn't have people from our neighborhood come, and we only invited people from our congregation or from the denomination area, right, the region. But it's grown, and it kept growing and growing and growing, and this is where it struck me. We used to give tours between us. We could give tours around the house.
We have 3 floors. We have 3 levels.
Have 3 floors, and there's a story for every tree, every room, and we would take turns doing that. But it got to where only one of us could do it because while we had people upstairs, then we had people downstairs, then we had people on both floors, and they didn't hang out upstairs, but these 2 floors. And that grew, and that grew. And finally, one day, we, at the end, we had some friends staying around, and there were presents underneath the Christmas tree. People had left us gifts. They didn't have names, but
Because they hadn't anticipated handing them to us.
right. And so somebody took them, and we realized we had greeters and hosts upstairs. That's what the kind
We actually had
of
other
peace-
people doing the tours.
Yeah.
They're not here.
let's
Here, let me
you.
show you this,
let's-
right?
Yeah, you want to go see this. You want to go see this. So this is what we learned, and it applies completely to church. You need somebody who opens the door. Those are our greeters. So we have people, if they rang the doorbell, then we let them in, or somebody let them in, no longer us. Somebody who showed them around, people who smiled at them, people who got them downstairs and handed
Ushers,
them off,
if you will.
right? Yeah, handed them off either to talking to someone, oh, I know somebody you really should talk to, or to one of us. And then we were able to connect them because we wanted to talk to everyone. That was another big learning. We couldn't just talk to a few people. We had to talk all around. Our guests keep coming back. I saw a teacher not too long ago at the school. She was there in 2019. She was talking about her husband. Oh, and you met my husband and everything else. I had no idea what she was talking about, and I realized, boom, 4 years ago at our open house.
So the metaphor is this, is that if you're going to have visitors and keep visitors, and you're more than a church of 7, then you're going to have to be intentional about a couple things: conversation, and helping them connect with a variety of people, and helping them get the lay of the land. And so we have these 3 steps we want to share with you. We're going to talk today about the connection conversation, how to have a conversation that is a real conversation instead of, good morning, welcome to welcome to First Church. And we're going to talk about the most important meet and greet rule that has ever been written, and hang on to that because that's important. That's coming up. And the last one is how to have worship buddies that help people feel comfortable in worship, even if they've never, ever, ever been in church for any reason at all. So 3 things: connection conversation, meet and greet rule, and our worship buddies. Let's start with the connection conversation.
Sure. So the connection conversation is when you meet somebody and you introduce yourself to them. As a pastor, and I've heard this from other pastors, it may be somebody that you just don't remember seeing, and you think that they're a guest, but they've been a member of the church for 25 years. And there are ways to get around that when they say, well, I've been a member here, or don't you remember I was here? And I just say, you know what? I see so many different people. It's hard for me always to connect.
So let's start at the top of the conversation, which is, and you want to teach your whole congregation to do this.
Yes, exactly. Hi, my name is, and yours is, or
hi, I'm Bill. I don't think we've met.
Right.
Hi, I'm Bill. I've seen you a couple times, but I don't think I've had a conversation with you.
I'm afraid to say that one. Honestly, I am, right? And but I ask people their name. Hey, my name is Kris. May I ask your name?
Yeah, and I see, I'm just, everyone forgets names, and I just presume they don't remember my name. She forgets names famously.
But
so do I.
They want to know that you care. You want to make brownie points. You remember their name.
Right, that's great. That's great if you're good enough at that and you do that. That's you get brownie points. But the bottom line is if you don't remember, hi, I'm Bill. I know we've met, but I can't remember your name.
I think we've met.
Okay, or hey, there's a number of ways. Just in case hi, I'm Bill. You've been sitting across the pew from me for 2 years, and I haven't had a conversation with you. I'd like to get to know you better. So there's a variety of ways. But when it comes to a visitor, hi, I'm Bill. I don't think we've met. And they're always going to respond with, hi, and they're going to give you the name. And if they don't, prompt them. Say, and you are? And okay, so that's step 1 of this 3-part connection conversation.
Introduce yourself.
Right? And get the name. Yes, and it's good if you can remember it. That's a good thing. Number 2.
Write it down.
Yeah.
That's what I do. Mm-hmm. I write down names. Sometimes I'll put them in my calendar, like where I met them, and that helps me to remember.
Good. All right. So, hi, I'm Bill. I don't think we've met. Second question, or actually the first question, is how long you've been coming here. The worst thing you can do, and visitors hate this, is if you say, "Are you a visitor?" No one wants to be asked if they're a visitor because it's like they're fresh meat.
Yeah.
They just don't want that.
Well, okay. So we pop into a church on a regular basis, and I remember this so distinctly. One of the greeters that morning at the front door, we come in, and she said,
I'm actually a member of this church.
Right. It's exactly what you're talking about, okay? That she's greeting and she's doing that, but here was her statement. "Oh, you're new here, aren't you?" "No, we don't show up." And I think that's why I say, actually, not exactly. And you fortunately didn't say, "Well, I'm a member here." I said, we're not able to attend we don't attend on a regular basis.
We're on the road with other churches on a
Right,
a
exactly.
lot.
So, yeah, but that was that whole thing. "Oh, you're new." "No, we're not new."
Right. So, how long have you been coming here? That also saves you from the raked over coals when someone says, "I've been a member here for 25 years," and whatever, and they just go bonkers on you. And there are people that way, and they may not have set foot in the church for the last 25 years, but they were a member there, and you've asked, "Are you a visitor?" They're like, "Eh."
Right.
So, how long have you been coming here?
In my house,
and
know.
if they're a first timer, they'll tell you, and that's the beauty of this is they've just admitted they're a visitor,
Right.
and there's no stigma attached.
Right.
How long have you been coming here? "Oh, wow, great." So for your first time here, then there's a side note, there's two things they want to know. Number one, they want to know where the bathrooms are. So that's the first thing out of your mouth just about, "Oh, great. Well, let me tell you, because the bathrooms they're well marked or they're not, as the case may be. They're hidden or they're very easy to find. You tell them where they are. And the second thing they want to know is, of course, where are they supposed to go next? And of course, if you're in a meet and greet, they already know this.
Right.
But if you're at a greeter at the door, then you can direct them, walk with them, etc.
Walk with them.
Okay.
Have at least 2 or 3 greeters when they get in there, so you can walk with them. It makes all the difference in the world.
I've been told it does.
Start with hospitality and get them into the sanctuary.
Right.
Do you
All right.
want hospitality?
Worship center?
Sanctuary. Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Worship center.
All right. So that's the second question. "Hi, I'm Bill. I don't think we've met." Number 2, how long have you been coming here? And the third question is, "What do you do for a living?" No, of course not. That's a horrible question, because what if they're unemployed? It can be emancipating, emaciating, whatever.
Emaciating.
It's not a good thing. So instead you say, "What keeps you busy during the week?" "Hi, I'm Bill. I don't think we've met. How long have you been coming here? And what keeps you busy during the week?" You get 2 things. First thing is, if they want to tell you what they do for a living, they'll tell you. But you might get their passion. I'm a manager at a fast food place, but I spend most of my time, I coach Little League baseball. I love coaching. You may learn about their passion. I can tell you that if you have this conversation, the 3-step conversation, no one will say, "No one talked to me," because all 3 of those questions invite input from them, and they're going to remember the conversation. And imagine what happens if 2 or 3 people have that same conversation. It doesn't seem repetitive. It seems like people care. So, number 1, connection conversation.
Number 2, meet and greet roll. And then the third, worship buddies.
That's coming. So, first, meet and greet roll.
Oh, meet and greet roll.
That's number 1. Yeah, are you totally okay? Okay, so
I'm not sure where he's going on this one. Go ahead.
the meet and greet rule. Okay, some of you have meet and greets.
you're talking about that. I'm thinking of the passing of the peace.
Yeah, right. Yep, which is the meet and greet. Which, by the way, passing the peace is a theological piece. It has become the meet and greet. The stand up and let's welcome each other. Okay, I don't care what you call it. If you have that time in your service where everyone stands up and says good morning or pass the peace or whatever, okay, I call that the meet and greet. And I want to tell you that it's not a golden rule, it's not a platinum rule. It's better than titanium. It is the rule. It is the great rule, and that is no one stands alone. And that's especially true of a visitor or a guest. No one stands alone at all, ever.
Okay. So, again, those of you who know us, know me, know how much I hate this part of the service. I abhor it.
It makes you feel uncomfortable. You stand there, what do I do?
Well, exactly, and I'm shy. And so I have a natural shyness comes to me. One of my cycle things is being left out. So, I stand out or stand up, and I am afraid of being left out. And I'm watching everybody else hug and everything else. I just stand there. I always look for the people who are also standing alone and head on over to that. And I carry with me, of course, most of the time we're visiting churches. And so I carry with me, this still is the church. It may not be my church. It is the church. And to go and to be out there. And as we were talking yesterday, and I said, I could go for the meet and greet time. The only way I could be okay with that is if the pastor gave suggestions for what he wanted us to talk about. And we were in a church, Compass Church, put a little shout out there, Compass Church here in Columbia, Missouri. We were in there a few weeks ago, and the pastor said, okay, talk to somebody around you haven't talked to before, and share your favorite your favorite song, I think it was. And so there were some people that were new sitting in front of us and said, I don't have, I said, golly, out of all the songs, and they were going, same thing, I can't think of any song. And I said, what about movie? Do you have a favorite movie? And so we switched it up, but we were still able to have I still remember what their favorite movies are. So, so if you can't ask that same question every week, but you could say, hey, what did you do last week that excited you? Or what keeps you busy question? Or you had a good one, what was the last picture you took? Like last photograph you took. So you could give the idea, just give one, but switch it up every week.
So here's the deal. First thing, go back to the connection conversation. Train everyone in that. On our website, you can find a download for the connection conversation handout. It's a colored handout that's beautiful, and you can print it. It's bulletin size, so you can, if you still use bulletins, you can put it as an insert. If you're using announcement sheets, you can use it there. And I'd even go so far as laminate that puppy and put it in every pew. So that it's right there, and you can remind people of this and keep it in front of them all the time.
What does that say to your visitors?
That we are training hospitality, and I think that's not a bad thing. In any event, whether you do or don't, you can go with the not or whatever. But you need to train your congregation how to have this. And during the meet and greet rule, here's again the meet and greet time. Here's the rule: everyone stands up, and Kyle Ermoyan, who was pastor of Celebration Community Church in Hays, Kansas, who took a small church to a very large church. Every time he had the meet and greet, and he did it every week, he held up 3 fingers. And the 3 fingers reminded his congregation, everyone who had been to his welcome class, his membership class, it reminded them they had to talk to 3 people before they talked to anybody they knew. You had to go find 3 people you didn't know and have conversation with them. Great rule. But the bigger rule is look around, and the first thing you do is if there's a visitor there or someone who's standing alone, you make a beeline for them and you engage in conversation. The connection conversation is a good one. If they have done something like what Kris has said, fabulous, but you stay there until you are relieved and some other member comes and takes your place, and then you can excuse yourself to go on while they have the conversation. The key is no one stands alone during the greet and meet time ever, ever, ever.
Okay, so I am a little more proactive in this. Instead of being there until somebody relieves you, I might take them to introduce them to somebody else. So
whatever it takes,
if I'm hearing something and I know somebody is in particular, say, oh wow, I need you to meet that person. If I can't do it right then and there, I'll make a point to go and introduce them after the service. And I want to go back to teaching this hospitality piece because I found this to be very helpful, and that is to role play it in your board meetings, your council meetings, in your welcome, your hospitality team, in your welcome classes or whatever you want to call them, your membership classes.
Never call it that, but anyway.
Right, so that's a good place. These are our values. I mean, if hospitality is a value, this is all part of it. If connecting is a value, right? I mean, like we're saying, it's beyond hospitality. It's connecting.
Right.
Those are values for you. You have to train for it and be very specific. and role play. Even amongst your board, you can set up scenarios for them to work out. Practice.
All right,
there.
we have very little time, and we have one more to cover, and it's an important one, and that is worship buddies. Connection, conversation, meet and greet rule. Don't forget that rule, which is probably the most important of everything we've said so far, and the worship buddies. And a worship buddy is someone who sits behind a visitor or next to a visitor and prompts them through the service of what's going on so they're not caught unawares of, hey, we're going to stand up for the next song, or hey, we're going to use the red hymnal, or the blue hymnal, whatever. This is how we take communion. Today's Communion Sunday, and da-da-da. And they're able to help guide them through the service so they don't get embarrassed, they don't get confused, and they're just being a buddy. They're just being helpful. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So just as nobody stands alone, nobody sits alone either. So there you are. And again, don't sit in front of them. Do sit behind
them or next to them.
Right, and that helps to ensure that during that meet and greet time that there's somebody who's there for them. In the conversation, you might, how long have you been coming here? Of course, but then there's also the piece. I'm not sure if you're familiar with like our service, right? Not worship services, with our service.
Right, exactly.
Is there maybe? I'd love to help, like just point out some pieces that are here. That's an important part.
And also, if you've had this conversation at the beginning service before the things have started, it's a great time to tell them where the restrooms are and which door to get out of, whatever, for that, just in case no one else has.
Right. And if you're in a smaller to medium-sized church, you want to have a team. We used to call it the GROW team, and we have a tool called the GROW team approach, where your GROW team are able to spot people. That's their whole job. And whether
spot new people.
But even if it's a long time people that are long timers or whatever, if they're there alone, nobody sits alone, right? So you're looking who's alone, and you go and you sit with them. Even if means you may not sit with your family unless you have children. And that's really where we learned about worship buddies, where when we're up front and we have kids out there and I can tell you what PKs, preachers' kids, are capable of when sitting alone. And for us, we're like divided. One's in one church, one's in another, and there they can go. So we had to have worship buddies for our children, and we realized then it was their worship buddies who were teaching about what was going on in the service, and that was all the more reason for some of us. We had children's church as we were trying to watch that. Yeah, worship buddies, not just for children.
There you are. All right. So 3 rules: connection, conversation, the meet and greet rule, which is like a golden rule, and the worship buddies. Those 3 things will make sure that your visitors feel connected to the church, connected to different people, and the more people they have conversations with, real conversations with, the more connected they feel, and the more likely they are to come back. Of course, one thing we haven't said is, I hope you all are inviting them to come back again.
Follow up.
And, follow up, which is another piece. But in the conversation is, invite them to return, and invite them out for coffee, invite them for lunch, go spend some time with them, make connections that are lasting.
And remember, it's not just one week, it's every week.
That's right.
So you're meeting new people. If you got a team, mix and match, so they're meeting more and more people. They're becoming part of the church. Before you know it, they will be.
All right. Hey,
we are out of time.
We are out of time. We'll see you next week.
Have a great week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.